Hello students, hope you're all doing fine. I welcome you all back to our online classes, and today we are going to do the poem A Tiger in the Zoo, uh, that is in page number 29. This is the third poem that we are doing in your syllabus. This poem is written by Leslie Norris. Now, Leslie Norris is from Britain. He's a famous writer, a poet, and a short story writer. Okay, and most of his works have received a lot of awards and prizes. And this poem of his, A Tiger in the Zoo, explains the agony and the helplessness of a caged tiger that lives in a zoo. Okay, so it is explaining the agony and the helplessness of a caged tiger, a tiger in a cage. Okay, so he's bringing a contrast between a tiger in the forest and the tiger in the cage. Okay, that means he's drawing a comparison in his stanza. So as we go on through the poetic lines, we'll understand what message he's trying to convey through this poem. Let's go on. First, look at the first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. So, in the first stanza, you can see he stalks in his vivid stripes. What do you mean by vivid stripes? Bright colored. Okay, vivid means bright color. You can see the stripes in the tiger, right? It is very bright in color. Then the few steps of his cage. Okay, now he is in a cage. The tiger is in a cage and he is walking to and fro on pads of velvet quiet. Okay, now pads is a comparison made. It is a metaphor here. So pad means you can see small pads you use for cricket and all, right? They use pads, and that pad will be very soft. And he's saying it's velvet pad. You will see in velvet, right? It is a soft cloth like surface. Okay, it will be very soft surface on cloth, on sheets and all. And that velvet, the paws of the tiger is looking like a velvet sheet. Okay, it's a velvet pad, he's saying. And in his quiet rage, so with his paws he's walking, with this velvet pad like paws, he's walking to and fro inside his cage in his quiet rage. He's very angry. Okay, he's walking there majestically inside the cage. Go to the next stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Okay, now he should be lurking in the shadow. He should be hiding in the shadows, sliding through long grass. Okay, there will be long grasses in the forest, and there will be shadows over there, very dark places, and he should be hiding over there. He should not be in a cage. The author says that he should not be in a cage. He should be lurking. He should be hiding in a forest where there are long grasses, and there are shadowy hideouts. Okay, where he should be hiding and sliding through the long grass near the water hole, near water bodies. Okay, where there is a river or a pond, which is a very what do you say, a common place for all the prey that will come. Okay, mostly deer and all small animals will come over there to drink water. Okay, and by the time the tiger will attack on its prey. So where plump deer passes, okay, where a plump deer, a wild deer comes and drinks water, passes by, and he should be waiting over there to pounce on his prey. Maybe that is his place. Okay, a tiger should be in the forest where gets his prey. Okay, but he is in a cage here. Okay, then let's go to the second stanza. He should be snarling around the houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. So he also should be snarling around. Snarling means making that warning sounds. Animals make that warning sounds. They'll say grrr, like that. They'll make some warning sounds, right? That is called snarling. So he should be making that snarling sounds around the houses. Okay, he should make some make the weird warning sound that the tiger is coming. Okay, a very scary sound that a tiger would make. And it at the jungle edges, okay, on the where the forest and the city or the village meets, he should be wandering there. So people will always say be careful in the edges of the jungle or the borders of the forest, because there will be wild animals over there. Because why is it very dangerous? Because tiger will be over there. Okay, and many dangerous animals will be there. So just like any other dangerous animal, this tiger also should be lurking over there, should be wandering in the borders of the forest, terrorizing village. Okay, baring his fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. What do you mean by baring? Uncovering. Okay, uncovering its fangs. Fangs means teeth. Okay, showing the opening the teeth and showing it, and letting out its claws to hunt the prey. Okay, sharp claws will be there, right? And terrorizing the village. Okay, threatening the village. Okay, scaring the village people. Okay, this is the what do you say, the behavior of a typical tiger. But here the tiger is not in that forest, and not in that condition, not in that situation. It is inside a cage. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. But what is the condition right now for this tiger? He is locked in a concrete cell. He's locked in a concrete means was brick walls. A cell means a room created by cement and bricks. Okay, and he's locked inside that cell. His strength behind bars. Okay, he's strong, but all his strength is controlled by that bars. Bars means what? Like jail. Okay, and he cannot come out. All his power is restricted. His strength is restricted within the bounds of the cell, so he cannot come out. Stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So he's walking. What is the length of the cage? A very small cage, right? So within that space he is walking to and fro, and he is ignoring the visitors. He is supposed to attack the prey, whoever visitor, whatever human beings or animals that is nearby, he will attack. He is a dangerous animal. But what is he doing here? He's inside the cage, so he's ignoring. He's not being himself inside a cage. A tiger cannot be himself inside a cage. He's a different. He's just a caged animal. Now let's go to the next stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So he hears the last voice at night. So now he is in a cage. Now he is in the zoo. Patrolling cars are going. That means all the watchmen, the jeep that will be going, monitoring the animals that are in the zoo. And what is happening? He is also being very careful. He is being very lethargic, because he is not himself inside the cage. He is being very controlled or limited inside a cage. And what is he doing? He stares with his brilliant eyes. It has a beautiful brilliant eyes, right? A tiger has a brilliant eyes, and with that eyes he is staring at the stars. So it is looking up, he is seeing the stars and feeling really sad, because it is not free inside a cage. It cannot be itself. A tiger cannot be itself. A wild animal cannot be itself unless it is in the wild. Okay, so in this artificial environment, the tiger that is in the zoo, in the artificial environment, the tiger is not being itself. Here the author says that any source of nature should be in nature. Any aspect of nature, any elements in nature should be in nature, and it is if it is brought to an artificial environment, it doesn't belong over there. Okay, it doesn't be the same thing that was in the wild. Okay, or that was in the nature. Okay, so this is the end of the poem. Now we will look at the poetic devices here. First, the poetic device, there are many important poetic devices included in this poem, so you should be very careful in analyzing them and understanding them. So kindly follow me. First one is personification. Here in the whole poem, what do you mean by personification? Personification is giving human attributes to inanimate objects, okay, or inhuman things. Okay, now here the tiger is personified in this poem. So you can see in stanzas, every stanza you can say he, his, he his, he hears, he should be lurking. So when they are saying he, now they are addressing it like a human being. Okay, so here the tiger is personified. Next comes metaphor. In the first stanza and third line, you can see on pads of velvet quiet. So here the paws of a tiger is compared to velvet pads. Okay, so the paws of a tiger is compared to velvet pads. Then comes oxymoron. Okay, in his quiet rage, underline that words, quiet rage. What do you mean by oxymoron? Oxymoron means two opposite adjectives comes together to give a different meaning. Okay, two opposite adjectives. You can see quiet is being silent, rage is being very aggressive. Now quiet rage, both of them are brought together to give a different meaning in this poem. So this is an oxymoron. And then you can see onomatopoeia. What is onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia is words, sounds denoted through words. Okay, sound words are called as onomatopoeia. And here page stanza 3, first line, you can see snarling, right? Underline snarling. This is the onomatopoeia given here. The snarling sound created by the tiger is onomatopoeia. Then what are the alliteration in this poem? Alliteration, what do you mean by alliteration? Yes, the first consonant letter of the words with closest connections in a poetic line in one sentence would be same. That means first letter, first sound, consonant sound in a poetic line would be same. The first letter of the words in a poem, in a poetic line, in the same line would be same. That is, you can see in second stanza, you can see plump pass. Okay, where plump deer pass. So plump pass, same sound, pla pa. Okay, this is alliteration. Underline that. Then in the fourth stanza, you have behind bars, b b. Okay, behind bars. Okay, you have same consonant sounds, b. Yes, and last stanza, he hears, he. Okay, her, consonant, same consonant sounds. So these are the alliterations employed in this poem. Then you have one more poetic device, that is enjambment. So we have learnt about enjambment also. What do you mean by enjambment? Enjambment means the poetic line will continue to the poetic sentence will continue to the next line of the stanza, that is without any punctuation marks in the middle. Okay, so the first line of the first line or the middle line of any sentence in a poem, okay, would continue to the next line, okay, to the following line, and end over there. Okay, here enjambment, you can see in three stanzas, first three stanzas, you have enjambments, that is he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. So you can see he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. It continues, the first line is continuing to the second line. Then second stanza, he should be lurking. Now you can see sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. You can see it goes to 3 lines. Sliding through long grass, then it continues near the water hole where the plump deer passes. So the last 3 lines of the second stanza is enjambment here. Then go to the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge. So you can see the first line is continuing to the second, which is ending in the second line in the third stanza. So this is also enjambment. So children, this is the end of today's lesson. So I have attached the question and answers for this poem and the summary along with this video. So kindly pause and note it down and start preparing. We'll do the next lesson in the next video, students. Stay home, stay safe. Bye.